Hello, everybody. Today we'll be looking at many moments in history where the multifaceted thing that is called the human spirit has succeeded. It is a very wonderful thing. I don't know if the noise there at the background is my fault.
It is.
That's your fault. Anyways, it is a very interesting thing. Now, I know this noise is really annoying. Anyways, I know when someone starts to talk like this, it sounds rather cliche,
Which it is.
sadly. Or you may sound like a supremacist of some sort.
Which we aren't, I have to point that out.
Of course. Or you may be wondering, if you're a philosopher, if there is actually human spirit.
Which, on that account, thank you, Sarge, but we will be assuming that it actually does exist, at least for this talk.
Anyways, the human spirit throughout history has shown its strength and resilience in situations where the odds are against you. And first, we'll actually be looking at Oscar Schindler. I don't know if any of you have actually seen the movie Schindler's List, but it is rather famous. And she'll be talking a bit more in depth about the story itself.
So, Oscar Schindler, just a quick recap for those who have never heard of him, was a German, Moravian German from the Sudetenland in the Czech Republic, what is nowadays Czech Republic anyway, and he is well known for saving a lot of Jews during the Holocaust by employing them at his ceramics factory. Now, one thing most people don't know actually is that Schindler was in fact quite an unpleasant person. In 1936, he actually joined the Abwehr, which is the German Secret Service, to spy on the Czech Republic and to make sure that Nazi invasion of the Sudetenland would be easier. He also was an alcoholic and liked to cheat on his wife. So, all in all, rather unpleasant gentleman. However, he managed to show a change of heart, and not only show a change of heart, but save 1,200 Jews from the gas chambers. Now, not only did this man, Oskar Schindler, have the strength of spirit to realize his mistake, well, some might call it slightly stronger than a mistake, and I would agree with them, but he also used his connections and all of his money, literally all of his money, he was broke at the end of the war, to save as many people as he could. And this shows this strength of the human spirit to be brave and to go above the limits that he had imposed on himself and to save human lives.
Another person we'll be talking about, and in this case it's much more about strength of body and mind than change of heart. His name is Benavidez. He's not the most well-known person in the world, but he was actually in the Vietnam War, and he is one of the few people who've gotten the honor of getting the Medal of Honor, the highest military award you can get in the United States. Anyways, in the Vietnam War, the situation where he gets his very famous medal is one where many special forces groups in the north who went to North Vietnam were stuck and surrounded by enemy forces. He volunteered himself to go into a firefight, which is not the normal thing to do. You usually run away from one.
Well, that's logical.
Well, he's a soldier. They're not the smartest people in the world. Anyways, and since there was so much enemy fire around him, he couldn't land anywhere near the special forces people. So he had to run towards them. By the time he gets there, he's shot in the leg and the face. Not the greatest start to a rescue mission. You would agree with me there. Anyways, by the time he actually gets all the evacuees to the helicopter that was supposed to get them out of there, he has been hit by a grenade, he has been stabbed as well, and in general is not having the best of times. The helicopter, because of the intense enemy fire, is shot down, which is very unhelpful in that situation, as you usually want to get out of there.
Quickly.
And also, you got a lot of wounded, it's not always the best idea. Anyways, he manages to get the people who are wounded, and usually close to dying, in a circle to defend themselves, which is impressive, given the fact that he's probably also equally, if not more injured than them. By the time they actually manage to leave, he has gotten even more wounded and has actually secured the important documents that were with them, while taking even more hits. Pretty successful. Anyways, by the time they actually get back to the enemy base, the doctor says he's going to die, there's no way to saving him, ends up actually surviving and getting the Medal of Honor. This shows actually more tenacity. We often combine strength of body with athletes. In this case, we show that even in the most tenuous circumstances, and this person is not an athlete if he's the furthest thing from it, and he actually has more strength of body and mind than them in more dangerous circumstances.
Again, overcoming his capabilities. Now, the third instance what we are going to talk about is the battle at Mount Tabor. If you're familiar with the Bible, you will know where it is. If you're not, then it is in nowadays Israel, but in that time it was in Ottoman Syria. And in 1799, after Napoleon had landed in Egypt, he'd actually gone up into Ottoman Syria to capture the city of Acre. And he was besieging this city, and people thought that Acre would fall. To prevent this fact, the Abdullah the Pasha of Damascus came down to reinforce the city of Acre and hopefully break the siege. He had 30,000 men with him. Napoleon, obviously not wanting to have the siege broken, sent an advance force to stop the Pasha of Damascus with 3,000 men. Now, for those who are doing maths 8, you may notice that the force comparison was 10 to 1. For those who aren't, well, I've just told you, so it's okay. Kleber, which was the leader of the 3,000 Frenchmen, managed to stop the advance of Abdullah Pasha of Damascus at Mount Tabor for 6 hours. After that, Napoleon arrived with 3,000 extra men and routed completely the Pasha's force and inflicted about the same amount of casualties as there were Frenchmen on that field, with the French taking only minimal casualties, though you have to be careful with those numbers because they were given by French people. So I'm French, I can say that. Point is, Kleber and his 3,000 men held out for 6 hours, and this is the most important and more interesting thing, I think, because at that time, in Napoleonic warfare, if you got shot, in all likelihood, you would either die, you would either get some sort of infection and then die, or get some sort of infection and then get amputated, and then live a life without your arm or your leg, or 2 arms or 2 legs, which, as we can all assume, is quite unpleasant. This mental fortitude in holding out for 6 hours in such conditions, in lines, infantry squares, which meant that basically you stood in a line with all your friends and you shot at people, and then you recharged, shot at people. So you're not even protected. But they didn't move for 6 hours. Even when they were running out of ammunition, they did not move. This show of the human spirit and how resilient and how strong it is to not even run away in the face of great danger, I'd like to underline 10 to 1, is very impressive, and I think it's something that should be remembered.
Yes. As we've seen in all these multiple examples we've given, the body and mind of a person can take great amounts of pain and whatever else you could think of, and actually come out on top is impressive.
And we'd actually like to do a little tangent here, I'm sorry, but it's about heroism. Now, heroism is quite hard to define because it often depends on the culture. What is heroic in 1920s America won't be heroic in 1850s Egypt.
London.
Or London either,
Yeah,
for that matter. But one way that we can define heroism, and the way that we've decided to define heroism, is to rise further than your expectations, is to be more human than human.
If you've gotten that quote, it is from Blade Runner, if you've ever heard it.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Damn.
It's a shame you've stolen it from there.
I thought it was intelligent.
That's a shame.
the question one can ask oneself is heroism innate to the human spirit? Now, we'd like to answer, if you'd like
Which
to
is
answer, Ruben.
actually yes, but it only really shows in very specific conditions because of how we look at ourselves.
So, to simplify what Ruben said, if you push the right buttons, anybody can...
Hero.
Exactly. Everyone has the ability to rise above what their expectations were, rise above what they thought they could do, to do amazing things. And that is the point we'd like to make today. Against all odds would actually be maybe the wrong way to put it, because really, it's not against all odds that people can rise. It's something that is innate, something that everyone can do, something that you can do, even if you're maybe not so sure about it. And we think it's important to show this fact, because after recent events, as has been said,
It's called the war in Ukraine.
yes, but not just, COVID and everything.
Of course.
Faith in humanity has declined. And we need to remember that humanity, despite all its flaws, is actually truly amazing.
I would actually change it despite all its flaws, actually.
Despite all its flaws, yes.
It has actually managed to have some incredible moments. And we often focus too much on the negativity around us instead of what we should actually look is the positivity. Because we are all surrounded so much with, especially on Instagram and all the social medias, a lot of negative stories and all that stuff. And we should actually remember our own capabilities, which you will actually find a lot in history.
So, if you ever see a cat stuck in a tree, don't forget that you can do it, because you are heroes. Go and get that cat.